This is an interesting question because it sort of feeds into a video that I've been wanting to make for quite some time. So let's dive into it. All right, so first and foremost, Azeroth isn't going to jump ahead in time. The time thing we need to lay to rest. At this point, I don't think anyone still believes that there is such a thing as a time skip happening. And if there is people that believe that, you need to go back, you need to go watch some BlizzCon, because they do answer this question once again at BlizzCon. There is no time skip. A minute in the Shadowlands is a minute on Azeroth is the same. But now where Sathic's question gets really interesting is when we talk about, are we going back to Azeroth instantly? Or is Blizzard sort of going to play it off and say, hey, you know what? Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens somewhere else before we go back to Azeroth. All right, so let's talk about this. So first and foremost, if we go by the history of World of Warcraft, Blizzard has pretty much always, when they do take us off world, we have another expansion that happens on Azeroth, right? I don't recall ever having back-to-back expansions off world, right? This doesn't seem to be Blizzard's shtick. Even with something like Legion, where we could have gone to Legion Worlds for a full expansion. Blizzard didn't want to do that. So Blizzard does seem to have this tendency to do every few expansions, we go off-world, but we always return for 1 or 2 expansions to our world. With that said, though, we have never had an opportunity as ripe as we have now to explore an entire universe. The Shadowlands, we already know, is far bigger than the parts that we see of it now. We don't even really know what the Shadowlands is at this point, which makes it even more enticing as to where this exploration is actually going to go. Where could we go with this? If you believe my speculation theory, if you believe what I believe about the expansion, then to my mind, the way this works is the Shadowlands, the zones that we see of the Shadowlands right now, it was sort of built as an afterthought by the Eternal Ones to control death. And that the Shadowlands is far bigger, far greater, and did have a previous sort of use case. There was something else that happened on the Shadowlands long before this thing happened on the Shadowlands. I believe that we are going to be exploring the secrets of the Shadowlands. Most likely, at some point we will return to the Shadowlands. Will that be directly after the Shadowlands expansion? I don't think so. Again, Blizzard seems to... They never want to fall into the same thing again and again and again, even though there's been expansions like Legion, like Warlords of Draenor, that could have very easily explored far more of that story. Blizzard seems to like opening a story and closing it by the end of the expansion, with only some ideas existing throughout the expansion, with a lot of the other ideas being closed off. So what do I envision the future of World of Warcraft looking like? What is expansion 10.0? We know already that it's been confirmed. There's been leaks of this. 10.0, 11.0 has already been confirmed. There's not been confirmation of a 12.0, which makes sense, right? Blizzard genuinely doesn't think that far ahead, if you will. So where do I think we go in 10.0? Personally, I think we're going back to Azeroth. I would have loved, and Sathix, to your question, there is so much from a cosmological perspective that must be explored. But remember, Azeroth is the central theme for all of these explorations. I believe in the Shadowlands, we are going to get a shit ton of insight into Azeroth, as in the planet that we've been living on, the Titan or the first one or whatever, it resides within Azeroth. We're going to learn a lot about that being that is within it. And we are most likely going to have to go back to either save it or to awaken it, right? This is, by the way, my sort of theory on it, is that we will most likely go back to awaken it. With that said, there is so much that can be explored. We need to go visit the Realms of Light, the Realms of the Void, the Realms of Foul. We need to go visit the Realms of Order. Blizzard sort of dropped at the previous BlizzCon. Blizzard did drop a sort of hint where people were sort of asking, hey, is Erebos, was it built by the Titans? What exactly is going on there? And Blizzard said, remember, you guys have never actually seen a Titan homeworld before. And that doesn't mean a Titan homeworld where a Titan is born. That means where the Titans live. We've never been to the homeworld of the Titans, where the Titans live and make their living. So that is something that Blizzard may have foreshadowed in a way at BlizzCon, saying this is something that we are going to be exploring in the very near future, be that 10.0 or be that 11.0. Personally, I also think the Dragon Isles is something that must be explored. At some point, we have to explore the Dragon Isles. It doesn't make sense to me. So here's my problem. Ever since Mist of Pandaria, we have had Rathian poking around, right? Doing all sorts of shit, whatever he wants to do. Rathian's always been busy with something. The problem with everything that Rathian's been busy with is it never really adds up, right? So Rathian wants to put an end to N'Zoth, but he's also doing a bunch of other things that doesn't necessarily work towards ending N'Zoth alone, right? It's very weird that Rathian consistently comes back, he's consistently involved in the story, and then Blizzard puts him on ice. Right when his story could really start taking off, Blizzard puts him on ice and goes, no, we'll wait a little bit. So, in my own speculation, in my own theory, I think that Rathian is looking for the Dragon Isles. I believe that the only way for Rathian to become what's it called again? Oh my god. The aspect of the Black Dragonflight, the only way to become an aspect is to go to the Dragon Isles. There's maybe a ritual of some kind or something that happens on the Dragon Isles that allows for a normal dragon to be made into an aspect of sorts. So I believe that the Dragon Isles is going to have some kind of play within the future of Azeroth. If not as a patch in the Shadowlands. My other reasoning for this, by the way, is... So Blizzard have always loved sort of foreshadowing things, right? Usually it'll be these small little changes, right? These small little storylines that is not insignificant to the overall storyline, but definitely doesn't take the main center stage. Now, to my mind, there are two stories that stands out as stories that doesn't necessarily... Well, there's actually three, but the third one I don't think we're going to be exploring right now. But the third one would be The Light. The story of The Light in Revendreth is sort of a story that is there, and it is sort of a major story, but it's also not really one of the major stories, right? It sort of exists in this weird in-between world of major story of the expansion, and just big story of the zone, but not really beyond that. The other one is the Drust, right? And then, of course, the Dragons. These are the three stories that sort of explored in the Shadowlands, but only insofar as it adds to the main plot line. It doesn't seem to have its own plot lines that it sort of adds to. Now, in previous expansions, this has always been sort of Blizzard's MO. They will give us something that seems to go there. So a good example of this would be Val-Shara. Val-Shara was completely out of place with Legion. The Emerald Nightmare was completely out of place in Legion. A lot of the Old God Corrupted stuff was completely out of place in Legion. The story really was only sort of limited to the zone, and then never again. And that's exactly what happened here, right? We eventually got a full expansion based on the stuff that happened in Val-Shara. I can foresee a full expansion on the Drust, a full expansion on the Dragons, or a full expansion on the Light. Any one of those three would make a lot of sense to me, but I don't see how Blizzard would go from Shadowlands to another realm rather than from Shadowlands back to Azeroth. And then the next expansion goes to a new realm. I hope that answers the question, Sathix. It is sort of interesting to think about this, But then at the same time, we're still early days into the expansion. We're gonna have to wait for 9.1 and see what secrets 9.1 explores to really figure out if any of this is even more explored, or if Blizzard is sort of holding out and not really exploring these things in depth. God only knows, right? At this point, at least, God only knows. So what do you guys think? What do you think the next expansion for World of Warcraft is going to look like?